What's up, superstars? On this video, we're actually gonna be doing another unboxing and testing of this heat press. So roughly about 2 months back, we actually did a heat press review where we unboxed 7 of the best heat presses on Amazon, and we crowned the PowerPress the best heat press out of that batch. But our reviewer from YouTube, Waleed, actually mentioned to us that the manufacturer actually changed the product description and they actually changed the video image or the product image on Amazon. So we went ahead and took a closer look at it, and we did notice that the image was a little bit different. Since this was crowned the winner of the heat press challenge, it is only fair that we ordered the newer version and test this out as well so that we can compare this with the legacy model. So first of all, thank you for Waleed for catching that change. We will unbox this and we'll get to the bottoms of what is new in this heat press. So before I get started with the unboxing, I did want to mention that we are not affiliated with the PowerPress. We are just trying to find the best budget heat presses under $300 to let you guys know exactly what you guys can get for that. So the next thing that we're going to do is fire this up. The notes that I had last time showed that it took me roughly about 6 minutes and 10 seconds to hit 300 degrees. We're going to see if this is going to be comparable or is it going to be improved. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. Again, guys, it comes with our standard 110 outlet. So it plugs into your regular outlet. I'm going to get my timer ready. I'm going to go ahead and flip the switch, which is on the side next to the fuse. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this. Let's go ahead and turn that on. Oh, there you go. Turn it on. It took a minute to actually turn on. See, there you go. So let's go ahead and start the timer. I'm going to lay this back down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the adjustments on both the temperature as well as the press time. So this is the press time. Let's go ahead and press the temperature. I'm going to lower that. Let's bring this up. Okay, there you go. So let's go ahead and adjust that temperature down to 300. The buttons are very easy to use, by the way. So I'm going to press that. Now I see that is a 10-second press, so I'm going to click on the timer. I'm going to lower that to about 7 seconds because that's normally what we press on. And there you go. It is heating up. It is currently at 95 degrees. It is pretty sleek so far. The buttons have a feel to it, so they seem pretty sturdy. So not bad there, guys. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this to hit 300 degrees. Briefly, while it's starting up, I did want to mention a couple things about this heat press here. Again, this is from Amazon, and this is going to be a 15 by 15. It's got a digital control board, and it is 1400 watts, 110 volts, so it plugs into your regular outlet. I did not see a Teflon sheet. The last one did have a Teflon sheet, so this one doesn't include that. Let's go ahead and test out the size of the press. So I am getting about 14 and 3/4 by 14 and 3/4. So it's a little bit smaller than the 15 by 15, which is what they advertise. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the next thing I'm going to do while it's starting up is I'm going to adjust this for pressure. So what I am doing is I want to make sure that the pressure is even all around on this heat press. So what I'm also noticing that this has like a spring action. It is very, very easy to lift above. So that's something that's improved. And then the next thing is going to be, of course, the pressure. So I'm going to adjust this. And what I'm doing is I want to adjust it to almost the max. I want to get to a point where it's very, very tough because we always want to press our transfers with a lot of pressure. So this seems pretty tough. I think a normal person would have a very difficult time to release it afterwards. So I am comfortable with the current setting on the press. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a dollar bill test. The reason why we do a dollar bill test is because we are trying to test the pressure all around the heat press. We are testing to see if there's any weak spots that doesn't have enough pressure. So that's the reason why we lay out a bunch of dollar bills on each corner, is to test the consistency of the press. So with that said, the pressure is set pretty tight. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Let's go ahead and give it a tug. It is tight, 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 tight. I can't pull it. If I pull it any harder, it will tear. So this is pretty good pressure all around. The beeping sound that you heard earlier is actually the timer. So if you set a certain timer on this, it will beep, so that will help you avoid burning any shirts, or if you're away, again, that will give you an alert that it is ready to be lifted. So let's go ahead and let it heat up all the way. It is currently at 209. It took about 3 minutes and 45 seconds, so it's going at a pretty good pace. We'll revisit once we get closer to 300 degrees. All right, guys, so it is at 298 degrees. It is starting to slow down as far as the temperature. It took about 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's taking slightly longer than the previous heat press, which took 6 minutes and 10 seconds. I don't really think that they made any differences in the coils or any of the heating elements. I think everything is pretty set. That's an alarm, by the way, that shows you that it hits 300. I don't think that the last one also had the timer there, so keep that in mind. And again, one of the major differences that I'm seeing is this spring action here. So that's something that's definitely a little bit different. So let's go ahead and test out the heating element. We have this set at 300 degrees because that's normally what we press our heat transfers at. So let's go ahead and see if this actually heats up to 300 all around, or if not, how far off is it? So let's go ahead and get down. We have our infrared gun. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the bottom right here, lining that up. I'm getting roughly about 271 right here. And if I move up to the right, I'm getting 266. I'm getting 295, 285, 300, 290, 295, 278, 276, and in the middle, 300 degrees. 277, and lastly up here, 302. So guys, I am getting various ranges from 265 all the way to 300. It is very consistent, 300 here, but there are some spots that are a lot colder than the other, so just keep that in mind. This is not the most accurate test, but it gives us a clear idea of the range here, and there are spots that does hit the 300. So that's the test with the heat. So let's go ahead and measure the last thing, which is going to be the whole surface area. So the width here, I'm getting about 24 inches across. And again, this is gonna be about 15 inches wide. And then I have a height here of about 27 inches. So those are the measurements for the press. And this area here in between the padding, it's roughly about 1.75 inches. So that's not a ton of room here, but you can still fit a hoodie and all that good stuff here. And the bottom pad is removable. And of course, it does have a handle for you to pull up against, which is nice. So let's go ahead and move on to the next test. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be heat pressing our transfer onto the t-shirt. We're going to be using a Ideal Tee from Next Level. This is model 1800. It is 100% cotton. So that's what we're going to be pressing, which is going to be our 300 degrees for this particular material. So this shirt here is going to be a medium. And I'm going to measure briefly what our printable area is going to be. So I'm going to go underneath the armpit, and it is roughly about 20 inches in width. And then from the bottom to the top, I'm getting about 24 inches. That's the measurements for this medium shirt. And then the transfer that we're going to be using here, take a look at that. All right, let's go ahead and measure this one. We have a width of about 10 inches and then a height of 12 inches. So it's a 10 by 12 transfer. So let's go ahead and lay our shirt here. I'm just gonna pull the pad out so I can fit this in here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and slide it in. I'm just going to measure to make sure that is even. All right, it is nice and even and straight. And then we're gonna go ahead and do a pre-press to get rid of all the moisture and all the wrinkles at the same time. All right, now it's all nice and flat. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding a Teflon sheet to the heat press. Again, guys, this was not included into the press. I know that previous model did have one, but we're also going to use our magnet trick to keep this from moving around. So if you have a set of magnets, make sure you guys do this because it makes things a lot easier. So just let me go ahead and separate this. All right, so we're going to take our magnets, and since this is a metal top, I'm just going to go ahead and lay this on top of here. I don't have to worry about this moving around afterwards. There you go. Perfect. So let's go ahead and lay our transfer. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm just going to fold it in half. This is an easy point because it has her mass horns there. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold it in half. That gives me the midpoint here. I'm just going to go ahead and move it up here. And I'm just going to use my finger to help me adjust this. I'm going to go pixel to pixel, and then, yeah, that's about straight right there. I'm using 3 fingers and my thumb to adjust if needed. So that's pretty good. I'm just going to move it slightly above there so it's nice and centered on the heat press. Let's go ahead and press. All right, let's go ahead and let this cool down for a bit. So let's go ahead and go for the peel. I'm going to use one hand to hold down the pad, one hand to hold the transfer, peel it sideways. Going to take the same film, we're going to flip it around, and we're going to go for that second press. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the results. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it down right here so that we can look closer to the results. So what I'm actually looking at here is I'm actually looking at the vertical lines that are going to be running down the shirt. These vertical lines are present because the shirt stretches left and right. You want to make sure that it has enough transfers where the lines are actually visible and that it actually lasts as a wash test. So I do see, it's harder to see on the dark area, but definitely on the lighter area, you can definitely see the lines that are running across. But the most important thing, even though it looks good, it sticks on and there's nothing that's sticking out, the most important thing is actually that it passes our wash test. So we're gonna take this back to our washer machine, we're gonna wash and dry this, and we'll come back with the results to find out if it actually sticks and if it actually is a good heat press. Welcome back, guys. So we've got the wash test results from the newer PowerPress press. Let's go ahead and take a look. I can't wait to share this with you guys. So this was our wash test. We went ahead and washed it on our dryer and washer machine. I didn't do any special care. I didn't flip it around. I washed it normally like what I would normally do on a regular shirt. And again, this is a normal shirt. It's 100% cotton, so it will normally shrink a little bit in the wash. But what I'm noticing here is that the transfer is still in really, really good shape. I do see the vertical lines that are running through the shirt. So this is important to know that the transfer is embedded very well onto the t-shirt. Another way that you can tell is if you scratch it, this way will be different. But if I'm scratching this way, you will feel the scratch, you will hear the scratch lines, and you will hear the scratch lines. That means the transfer is embedded very well onto the shirt. So guys, this does pass our heat press challenge as far as pressure and wash test. It does get a thumbs up from us. So let's go ahead and go through the pros and cons of this press. It is very similar to the original legacy model that we purchased, but there's just some slight differences. So we're going to go over the pros and cons. I'm going to start with the pros on the PowerPress. So this is a little bit different than the original legacy model, as one of our users mentioned. So I'm going to talk about the slight differences here as well. But first of all, it is very easy to use still. We still recommend this PowerPress. It's a good press. It does have an automatic countdown timer with an alarm. So once you set the temperature and the time, it will beep once the timer is set and count it down. It has an adjustable knob. I do notice that this one is a little bit more stiff and harder than the legacy model, which is good because that means that it's gonna have less chance of it getting loosened. It's gonna stay consistently as tight. I did notice a heat range between 260 to 300 degrees. So there was some cold spots that I did not like about this, but the most important thing is that it did pass our wash test, and that was fine. If you need to increase the temperature to compensate, you can also do that, but for the most part, that was fine. This is still priced at $199, which is a very good buy for a heat press. And it does come with a 1-year manufacturer warranty still. And one of the major differences that I noticed is that it looks like the geometry is a little bit different here. They made this just a little bit easier to press down with. And I also noticed there's a little bit of a click here. And it actually has a very strong spring action that makes this very easy to unravel. It's not quite automatic, but it does have an assisted release, which is really nice because it takes a lot of the effort out of it. So now let's go ahead and talk about the cons of this press. So the cons of this press, first of all, when I unboxed it, there was no Teflon sheet. The original did come with a Teflon sheet. This one does not, so you're gonna have to buy one of these Teflon sheets, which is really important. I also noticed that there was no extra fuse. The original Legacy model had an extra fuse. Chances are these guys do not go bad that frequently, but it's always nice to have an extra set of fuse, and this one doesn't unfortunately have that, but that's not a deal breaker for me. And instead of taking 6 minutes and 10 seconds to heat up to 300, this one took right about 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So it took slightly longer. I really don't think that they changed the model as far as the heating elements inside. It's just a variable that this one took a little bit longer than the other one. And it could also be, again, it's hotter today than it was the other day. There could be various reasons, but that's not such a major time difference. So I'm not gonna hold that against this press. And lastly, another con is there's not a whole ton of room to work with here. So if you're dealing with hoodies, you might have a little bit of a difficult time fitting the hoodie underneath. But again, it's not a deal breaker, guys. Now let's go ahead and talk about our point system. So we're gonna go ahead and rate this. We're gonna re-rate this from 1 to 5. We have a couple things that we use to judge this. So now as far as sturdiness, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 4. Not quite a 5, a 4. I do see there's some pieces that are loose. It's not that it is not tightened or it needs to be retightened, but it's because this item actually moves left and right and back and forth. So they do make some areas a little bit loose, but I am just gonna say that it is not as sturdy, as tight as I would like it to be, but it is still not bad at all. As far as easy to use, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 5 instead of a 4 like what we did last time, because they improved the handle system. It's a lot easier to use. I'm gonna give it an extra point there. Pressure, I'm gonna give it a 5. It was easy to tighten this all the way up, and every section of it was very, very consistent. So it's gonna get a 5 from us on the pressure. Heat distribution, it's still gonna get a 4 because it doesn't hit 300 all around the press. So it's still lacking that consistency with the heating element. It's gonna get 4 out of 5. And as far as the wash test, it's now gonna get a 5 out of 5 because it did wash very, very well. I got the results that I wanted to, and so it does pass our wash test. So guys, out of a 5-star feedback, we're gonna give this a 4.6 out of 5. So it's still a very good press. And what we really like about it is the cost. It is under $200, so that's a very good price point. If you guys are starting off, that's a good price point for you guys. There is a lot of other heat presses out there that are a lot more expensive, that are even better than this one, that we would recommend any day. But for something that is in the $200 range, you can't go wrong with this press. My name's Phil. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let us know if you guys have any questions or if you guys have any tips or anything that I'm missing. We would love to cover it for you. If you found this video helpful, make sure you guys support the channel by smashing that like button. We'll continue to do more content. I'll catch you guys on the next one.